Okay, this is ITS148, and today is January 22nd, 2019, and we are in, this is class number 5, and we're at the end of, chapter 4. So we'll finish up some chapter 4 slides, and then we'll take a look at the assignment, and maybe we won't have to be here the whole time today. So let me share my screen. All right. So we are this is where we are right here. Today's the 22nd. And so let's go to let's take a look at the slides. I want to mention one thing. I did make a slight modification to assignment 1. This should say assignment 2. What's going on? Anyway, this is assignment 2. And so if you have already handed in your assignment and I've graded it, then you're good. But I've made a slight modification, and that is simply use the decimal triparse and then catch the error. You know, we know triparse from last semester, and so that's what you can do. You can do that for those of you that haven't finished the assignment yet. So that's good. So let me go to the resources. Let me pull down the slides. Let's see if I actually have the slides. Did I keep the slides from last time? Let me see. Chapter 4, here we are. I think this is, this. So I believe we ended up about, remember we were talking about escape sequences before, and verbatim literal strings with this ampersand in front. And these are the common .NET structures to define value types. We saw a few of these last semester, and this book is a lot more comprehensive, kind of tells you everything. And this book is not intended to be like a beginner's book or intermediate book. This is like a cookbook that's got everything in it, and that's why it's one of the reasons why it's so fat. So it's a lot better, as I've mentioned before, as a book that if you're going to want to buy a book and you think you might be doing some C# programming in the future, this is not a bad book to keep. And these reference types, and so here are the common methods for data conversion. I think we'll go from 32 to 55, and I'll just take a little bit more look at the assignment. So you do know about toString because we use that all the time, and we also did I cover? I think I've gone through these slides already. toString, but let's just go through them again. We have toString, which is a method that converts a value to its equivalent string. We also have, two decimal, two double, two int, to all those other ones. So if you're going to convert some value that's not a decimal into a decimal, you use this. But we also have Parse, which is a method which converts a specified string to an equivalent data value. So that's like going in the opposite direction. We have a string, and we want to convert it to like a number or something. And so this is a static method. Means you don't have to actually create an instance of an object before you use it. You just use it, and you generally put the data type in front of it. So this converts a string to a particular data value depending on what you put it, like decimal.parse or whatever, int.parse, so that just completes the operation. It just does it for you. Try parse, as you recall, is a little different. It will actually return a true or a false if the parse was successful. If the parse was not successful, then it returns a false. And that way you can try to parse it. And if it doesn't parse, you can flash up a message to the user saying, sorry, I was not able to parse this into the decimal or whatever you want it to be. And so the user can, try again. So try parse takes two arguments: the actual string that you want to convert to a number, usually, and this is the actual converted result. So whereas parse returns the actual converted result, try parse returns a true or false, and the function value, return value, is going to be true or false, and the actual parsed result will be here in this variable, which is an out variable, which you declare. You have to declare it beforehand, so the try parse method has a place to put it. It better be declared as the same type as what you're trying to parse. So this, of course, is preferred because, if you try to parse a string into a decimal and it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, your program bombs. So with this try parse, you can do something should the parse not work. A static method that converts the specified string into an equivalent data value and stores it in the result value. Returns a true value if the string is converted, otherwise it returns a false. So these are different static methods to convert it to decimal, to double, to int, and so on. And here are some examples of statements that use two-string parse and try parse. Here we have declared a variable called sales. It's a decimal variable, and we've also assigned it a value of 2574.98. In this second line here, we declare a string called sales string, and we set that equal to a string equivalent of whatever sales was up here, you see. So this thing defines sales as a numerical value, happens to be a decimal numerical value. This converts that back into a string, which can be displayed in a message box or written to a label. If you try to write this directly to a label, it's not going to like it because you're trying to write a number into a string and you're not parsing it or anything. This here will convert the string back to the original value. And so you do decimal because you want to convert the string into a decimal value, and so this converts the sales string back into a decimal value, stores it back into sales. So if you do this, sales is going to still end up being the same thing. This here, decimal try parse, you can use it just like this. You can just use it as a standalone method. It's going to return a true or a false, but it's not. But if it's not assigned anything, it's not going to. It's just not going to assign, a true or false will come back. But if you don't have anything, if this is not on the right side of an assignment statement, then it doesn't matter. It just goes into the bit bucket, as they say. And This is an example of an implicit call to the toString method, and it's this automatic, you know, implicit conversion where you've got a variable here called price, and it's a double type variable. It's, you know, you can store numbers with decimal points into a double type variable, and you can store numbers with a decimal point into a decimal type variable. And we learned last time quite exhaustively with assignments 3, 4, 5, and 6 of last semester, the difference between decimal and double is that the range, well, first of all, a decimal uses 128 bytes, whereas a double uses 64 bytes. I think that's right. And but the range of a double variable is much wider. So you can store into a double variable, you can store very, very large numbers, you know, up to 10 to the 308th power or some large number like that, or, you know, minus 308th power. But the precision is not as fine, it's not as granular as with a decimal. A decimal, the range is not quite as wide. It's still wider than anything that you'll ever need, unless you're, you know, trying to compute the, you know, the weight of atoms or something. I don't know. The range is not as wide, but the precision is much higher. And so you use decimal when you're dealing with numbers and you're dealing with interest, and, you know, you're dealing with trillions of dollars or billions of dollars, and you're doing interest calculations. And on those large numbers, you know, you want to get it all the way down to, also the representation of the numbers inside a decimal is base 10. It's a base 10 representation. So you don't run the risk of losing precision when you convert from base 10 to base 2. Okay, so this implicit call, since this is a double variable, but all the rest of this stuff is a string. This is a string. This is a string. This defines this price string as a string. And so in that context, if we take a string and we do a plus and we do the price, it's pretty obvious to the compiler that you're starting with a string and then there's a plus sign after that. Well, what follows has got to be a string. And so it's going to take whatever does follow and convert it to a string if it's not a string. And so this is an implicit call to the toString method. You could put .toString parentheses and parentheses, which is probably, you know, more specific, and, you know, some people might like that better. But in this case, you don't have to. Is there something more down here? Oh yeah. Here is simply using the try parse method to handle invalid data. And if you do something like this, where you, let me take this out, where you have a sales string that looks like this, there's a problem there because it's got a $sign in front of it, and and then you try to parse. You try to do a decimal. If there was not a $sign here, it'd be fine because it would look like a double, which is fine. It 25.74.98 would normally parse without the $sign. Would normally parse into a number, but with a $sign in front of it, does not parse in front of a number. The compiler is not smart enough to know that when you put a $sign in front of it, you're just saying it's money. Here, you've set sales, you've defined sales, and so it's a decimal number. Define sales, a decimal number. In fact, you even set it equal to 0. And so here, you're trying to parse sales string, into a decimal number, use try parse, and what's going to happen is this is not going to parse into anything. This is not going to parse into a number. So try parse cannot take this and convert it into something to put here. So it doesn't put anything there. It just leaves it what it was before. And so that's why sales is equal to 0 when this is done. Also, this thing doesn't bomb because, you know, it just didn't work. And if you would have instead said, you know, bool x equals that, then you were to do something like, let me get over here. Then you would do something like message box show, you know, bool. No, I mean, no. Let me do this. If x, then, you know, it worked. Else, well, you know what I'm doing. I'm just going to display this. Else, message box show didn't work. Then it would display out didn't work. Oops. But actually, I don't need this. The other thing is that, are we in, this is Microsoft. Oh, well. Options, proofing. Straight quotes with smart quotes. I do not want that. Didn't work. What's going on? Well, anyway, all right. Let's keep moving here. And so conversion statements that use the convert class. So there's this static class called convert. The name of it is convert. It's a static class, which means you don't have to create an instance of it. You know, you don't have to create a new object called, you know, Joe, and then Joe.toDecimal. The kinds of classes that we will be writing and we have written are not static classes, although I think we have done a static class before. Anyway, so this convert thing will convert a string back to a decimal, and so just another way of doing it, because you can also use these two decimal. So here you convert something to, you know, you convert to decimal from text, and it takes the string, it's got to work, and converts it over. I think we looked at this slide before. These are standard numeric formatting codes for the toString, like this. So when you're converting some value some number into a string, you know, if it is money, the C stands for currency. If you're converting it into currency, it's going to convert it into something that's got a $sign and a comma and decimal points and so on. If you're going to convert it to percent, it you know, divides it by 100, throws a percent symbol at the end, and also the digit here says how many decimal points, how many digits to the right of the decimal point. Same thing with this N number format. It's like a number, an integer or something. No, a number, and 0 means 0 decimal places, or there's 0 digits to the right of the decimal point. What number does is it throws commas in there if it's, you know, if it's greater than 1,000. And this is floating. Wait a second. Is that? Yeah. Anyway. I'm going to test this to make sure it's right. Let me open up Visual Studio. I'm going to put this up just in case. Let me just create a project here. See, by the way, is there anybody here that's affected by the shutdown? Is any you guys affected by the shutdown? Your family is, yeah. Yeah, I'm not either. You know, it used to be working for the federal government was as good as working for the state. Not anymore. It's much better to work for the state or the city now. Anyway, okay, so let's I'm just going to open up a project here because I want to test some of this stuff. I'm just going to pop this on the desktop. All right, so I'm just gonna double click to get to the load handler. I'm just gonna throw some stuff in the load handler, and I'm gotta wait till it's. So I'm gonna put these things. Copy. Get to my load handler yet? All right, here's my load. I'm just throw some stuff in here. Let's see. I gotta get. So let me. Let's make this bigger. So I'm gonna say string monthly amount equals amount. Okay, I gotta set amount to something. Amount. Let me do double amount equals 1547.20. Okay, so that's what amount equals, and I can get rid of this. Oops. And let me just put this over here, and let me say interest rate. I'm gonna put these in here. Double interest rate equals 0.023. Just rate. Put a 0 in front of there just to. And I'm going to say, okay, so I don't need this anymore. I'm going to say quantities. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be interest. Interest equals that. It's this number. And quantity, I'm going to set quantity equal to, I'm going to make it a double. Quantity equals 15,000. It's okay, that looks like that. And I'm going to say payment, double payment equals 432.818. All right, so I got those in there, and I'm going to do, so I don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I've got these things here, and I'm going to see what these display out to, and then I'm going to mess with these digits over here to see what happens. Okay, just so we firm it up in our brains. So so I'm going to monthly amount. Let's display out. In fact, I'm going to display. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a label. Put a label here. Label. And doesn't matter. It's just a label. Okay. And I'm going to say label 1 dot text equals monthly amount, because it's a string, comma. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to put a escape. I'm going to put an escape character, as they say. I'm going to put a line, a new line there. Okay, so I'm going to put monthly, and then I'm going to put label 1 dot text, and I'm going to do plus equals because I want to append or concatenate interest rate plus a new line, and I'm going to put label 1 dot text plus equals quantity string plus quote \n, and the last one here will be label text plus equals payment string plus, I don't need to do this last one because it's the last one. All right, so I got all these numbers, and so it should look just like it. This should look just like it looks here. It should look like that. Let's see. So I'm going to run this. There it is. So we got 1547. Okay, it looks the same. It looks just like this. All right. So let's stop this. Let's do one thing here and click on that. I want to make it much bigger. There. All right, so I'm going to mess with this now. I'm going to make this, C is fine. I'm going to make it P2. I'm going to make this N1 and F4. P2, N1, F4. See what that does. P2, okay, P2, 2 numbers to the decimal point. N1, 1 number to the right of the decimal point. And 4 is got 4 digits to the right of the decimal point. 1 digit. Okay, so what I said was right. So these the 1, the 0, and the 3 is digits to the right of the decimal point. So what I'm trying to show you here is that if you're not sure about anything, if you got to by the end of this, by the end of the 2 years here, you'll at least learn two more languages, I hope. And if you're like a lot of people, they'll start getting jumbled up in your head. Okay, so here we're using this is a different way to do it. We have here we're using this format feature here. So if we and what this means is that you can put more than one. You can put more than one value there. So I'm going to try something here. What happens if I do? Well, anyway, you can test this. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we know this already. Okay, so scope. We covered scope last time, but it's good to emphasize it. It's good to emphasize it again because it's an important concept, and sometimes your errors. They're the kinds of errors that you get. These scoping errors, oftentimes they end up being such that they aren't runtime errors. I mean, they aren't compile time errors, and if they're runtime errors, well, they might be not even an error caused at runtime. Your program might execute fine, and really, when you think you're writing something in the one variable, you're actually writing in the scope is different, or you want to refer to something, and so the idea is there's class scope and there's method scope. So class scope means the whole class has access to that variable. Method scope means the variable is only accessible within the method. Okay, so the scope of variables determines what code has access to it. If you try to refer to a variable outside of its scope, it will cause an error. So in other words, if you are doing this and you define this variable in here called subtotal, okay, there's a variable here inside. Okay, the class variables are these two variables, number of invoices and total of invoices. Those are class variables. The so any method inside this class can reference, any method inside this class, within that method, you can reference a class variable. However, if you're outside, or if you're just in the class and you're not inside the method, then you cannot reference variables inside the method. So it's determined by where you declare it. Method scope, class scope. You can only refer to method scopes inside the method itself. The lifetime of the variable is the period of time it's available for use. A variable with method scope is only available while the method is executed. A variable with class scope is available while the class is instantiated or is in existence. So what that means is kind of a subtle meaning, and it's and you'll refer back to this knowledge oftentimes when you're writing code, and that is for a class variable, that the memory that's allocated to store the value is allocated at what's called compile time. In other words, it's allocated before the program starts running. There's a spot in memory that is allocated for these two variables. Once it starts executing, that memory is there for the whole time that the program is running. It's actually there for the whole time that the object that's instantiated from this class is in existence. However, inside a method, when the method is called, like in this case, this is an event handler. So when the button is clicked, then at that time, the memory spot, the spot in memory that is allocated to store the subtotal variable, at that time it's allocated. It comes into existence, but then when the method is done executing, it disappears again. And that memory location is available for something else. So it's possible that the same memory location, when this method is executing, the memory location is used for this subtotal variable, and then when it's done, it's released back to the operating system. And when this event handler is called, or when this method is called, then if there's any variables declared within this method, then the memory location that was used for this could be used for that. Now, in this particular case right here, this is this. So we have this thing setting number of invoices to 0, and so any other time, like up here, if this is executed and then this is executed, then this is going to be what this value is. Here, this is formatting type stuff. You can put a border around your. Oh wait a minute. This is border style enumeration. It's using the border style enumeration as an example of border style of enumeration. Enumeration. These are. I don't think we talked much about enumeration last time, but it's a way to give names. It's just another way to give names to values. And so here, okay, so there's two ways to do enumeration. First of all, okay, so we're declaring. Is there an example here? All right. All right. Here's an example. We are declaring a variable. This is like we're declaring a variable called terms. It's like a constant. It's like we're defining a set of constants. We're defining a set of constants, and that set is called terms. And inside that set, there are 3 like attributes or 3 values, and you can use these values, or you can refer to these values by terms.net 30 days, terms.net 60 days, and terms.net 90 days. So oftentimes these enumerated types are only referred to by their names, but other times these enumerated types may actually be referred to by the specific values that they're assigned. That they're assigned. So so there's 2 ways to define these. So when you just do it this way, and you don't say that any kind of type or any values or anything, then it's just assumed that you mean you have a set. You have an enumeration type called terms, and internally, net 30 days, since it's the first one, it's going to be a value 0, and net 60 days, since it's the second one, it's going to have a value 1, and this one's going to have a value 2, just like this. However, you can kind of override that and say, okay, I actually want net 30 days to have a value of 30. I want net 60 days to have a value of 60. And in this case, you can actually use those values. But it defines an ordering, and you can refer to it in if statements and as the actual values themselves. So here you can see that for the first one, you know, if you actually want to convert them to their integer, let's see, this is the second one. If you actually want to oh yeah, never mind. Okay, so this is term values, and so that has a value of 60, whereas terms just has a value of 0 because it's the first one. And so declaring a value type that contains null values. All right, so let's get to this invoice total form. This is 55. Okay, so we're kind of getting into the assignment here, and if you look at here's the event handlers for the invoice form. This actually gives you the code, and this is what the enhanced invoice. So we're getting into the assignment here, and there's code. This provides the code that you're going to incorporate, and we're using these methods that we've defined earlier. This is a different problem. This is extra 4-2. So we're not going to do that. There are some additional exercises in this provided in this textbook, and so I'm gonna probably utilize some of those. Okay, so this class goes till 3 o'clock, right? Okay, let me just get you started a little bit on these exercises, or on the second assignment. I need to fix that. All right, so if you go to resources, you'll notice that there's this chapter exercises. So you go to chapter exercise, and we're in chapter 4, right? Yeah, and I generously give you this. This is the starting zip file. So I'm gonna open it and throw it on the desktop. But I also want to show you that this here, this is the open. This actually, I believe, is the answers. It's the answer. I think that's what this is. And what is this? Oh, this is the actual exercise. Now, why would I do this? I think I just did this for reference for when I show you how to do this. What is this? Oh, what do I have on here? Invoice total enhanced, invoice total. Oh, no. I want to do this. Let me go back to here. I didn't do. This is the one I wanted to open before, I thought. Yeah, okay, so this is the one you start with. So if you open this up, invoice total, this is the one you can start with. So when you run this, it looks like this. And, you know, 200 is that. However, if you put a dollar sign in front of it, bombs right here. You know about bombing. And so I think the first thing we ask you to do is to instead do this. If decimal try parse parentheses text subtotal dot text comma subtotal. If that works, then do all this. Otherwise, please enter a valid number for subtotal. So it looks like this. Now, what is this? Do I do this? I can't remember. Yeah. All right, and I do not. I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do that. So now, if you start this, and you put 200, yeah, it still works. If you put $200, then it says, boom. Anyway, all right. So so let me look at the assignment here. And that's where if we had this thing. Let's just go to the textbook. Did I not? What is this? Let me, sorry. Here we are. Right where I left off last time. So open the application, run the application, enter that, and then enter this, and it's not going to work. Exception should occur. Note the highlighted statement with the mouse so you can see the data tip. Let's see the data tip. I didn't do that. Anyway, Modify the first statement so it uses the parse method, and I've asked you to use the try-parse method. Instead of the 2 decimal, instead of convert 2 decimal, round the values that are stored in the discount amount and invoice total, so there are 2 decimal points. Delete the formatting codes for the statements to convert these 2 strings. Then test the application to make sure only 2 decimal places are displayed for the amount. So it is, so it's something like, not that one. Oh, okay, so what does this look like now? So it's already discount amount and invoice total. Discount amount. But I'm going to close this one. Are we supposed to replace the? Because they already are they already are going to be 2 decimal places when this executes. Okay. Well, anyway, delete the formatting codes. Okay, so we're supposed to delete the formatting codes. So you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to go math, round, parentheses, comma 2. Math, round, parentheses, comma 2. And then you just got to go like this. No, like this. I think. Like this. I think. Let's see what this does. Yeah. So there's no dollar signs there. That's all. Okay, so that's the first one, and the second one is you have to do a little bit more. Oh, you open this total enhanced one. Okay, so I've given you that one. Use the techniques that you learned in Chapter 2 to enlarge the form and add new controls shown in Figure 4-7. So invoice total enhanced. Let's see what this looks like. I hope I gave you the right ones and I didn't give you, what does this one look like? I'm confused. New controls that are shown in 4-17. Well, let's look at 4-17. So this says calculate, clear, and exit. This has got calculate, clear, and exit. This looks different. How come there's so many more here? Let's see. You've done this one. Did you figure out the discrepancy? Did you actually start with this enhanced one?
Yeah, what I did was I did the, what happens is since page 130 it shows 131 shows the original total invoice.
Yes.
And then the next one 132, 133 it shows the enhanced version. With a little more.
Yes.
On the left side of the clear total and the code below. That they added in yellow.
Yes.
And then 4.1 is a simple exercise. 4-1 is just a simple. Just a simple change in the code.
Right. 4-1 is a simple change in the code. How about 4-2?
4-2 it actually tells you to add a few more text boxes.
But are you adding it to what you did in 4-1, or
Yeah,
okay, so that's what you.
I did 4-. I did what was in 131.
Mm-hmm.
On the page in 133.
Mm-hmm.
And then I modified. I did 4-1 and then I moved 4-2 and I did all 4-2.
All right, so you did not start with this enhanced total one.
No, I actually started with my previous project.
Okay.
So I actually went I did it myself.
All right. Well, I think that's what you should do. Okay. So all right. So I don't mind giving you this. I don't mind giving you this enhanced version. It looks like the enhanced version might actually. Yeah. No. I mean, I think everyone should not, because the enhanced version is different than what you should come up with in the end. So which is fine. I don't mind at all giving you like the solution. Towards the end, I'm probably not going to give you solutions, but for those of you that have not done it yet, you're welcome to look at everything I've given you in that resources folder and use that to try to get to the answers, to complete the problems. I'm all for. It's better that you perhaps look at this solution and do it from there than, I guess, somebody else, your neighbor's solution or something. And I'll be able to tell, I mean, by your variable names and by the spurious spaces and misspellings of your comments and all that, whether it's yours or whether you just copied it from the enhanced version, that, this book takes quite a bit different approach to having you learn how to program. It gives you solutions. It has you, okay, so here's the problem. Here's a solution. Try to leaves it to you to get from the problem to the solution, and we'll add some little enhancements along the way to make sure that you understand what actually the steps are to get to those solutions. Okay. All right. So So I think that I think I've given you enough hints to finish this assignment, and so you know, go to it, and I will clarify for those of you that haven't handed. I'm going to have them do what you did, and so instead of opening, you know, you certainly you know, please if you're stuck, please open this up and take a look at it. But really, what you want to do is enhancing. Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, I didn't read this. And let me put this. Let me put the share back on again. So you know, as it says, start with the one you did in exercise 1. You're welcome to open this one and check it out, but use this plus the techniques you learned in chapter 2 and so on to convert what this is, to convert that, which is what you did in the previous one, to the this to this. This is different. This is different than this. Oops. This is it's running.
My final one actually ended up looking like that.
It does look like this. All right, good, thank you. Do this, and then you end up with, does it show you a picture of the final? No, it doesn't show you a picture. Okay. So you're supposed to walk through it, and it comes this, now, does this work completely how it's supposed to work? Okay, all right. That's what I was saying originally. Okay. All right, so I guess what I'm asking you to do then is see what this looks like when you open it up. See what this looks like when you open it up. This is the code. This is the code, and so the only thing you got to do is add try-parse to this.
It tells you to try it on.
That's what I did.
And I use that as a guide.
I went, spent a couple of hours figuring out.
Okay. Well, good. So do it, and in the future, I'm going to start to ease in some extra stuff that's a little bit different. But I want everybody to feel comfortable with what this is and the complexity of these things, getting used to the naming the variables and all that. And so do your best not to copy the code directly. Instead, you can have the code up on the left and your code on the right and type it in. You know, that's the idea. You get the practice by repetition. You learn by repetition, and then as we go along, we're only into the second or third week of this semester. We'll start injecting some other stuff, just like I asked you to do try parse instead of parse. All right, so it's the end of the class. See you next time. Thanks for watching.